well-spiced Shanghai beef short ribs served with hoisin barbecue sauce. Smoky baby back ribs with lemon brown sugar barbecue sauce. You'll nail this recipe the first time you try it. And ribs you can cook on the grill in 10 minutes with Chilean pevity. Ribs so quick you'll miss them if you blink. The ultimate test for the aspiring grill master is mastering the ribs, and today I'll show you 3 of the best. I'm Steven Raichlen, and from the beautiful Tubac Golf Resort in southern Arizona, it's time to fire up the grill. Travel the world's barbecue trail and you'll find ribs on every continent. For many people, ribs are the ultimate barbecue. Today, I'm going to show you ribs from China, South America, and the American barbecue belt, because every aspiring grill master should know how to nail the rib. I created the first timer's rib for the person who has never before cooked ribs and wants an absolutely fail-proof recipe. And it's got everything that a rib should have. That is, it's got a rub, it's got a mop sauce, which helps keep the ribs moist during cooking, and it's got a barbecue sauce, all made from scratch. The rib of choice is the baby back rib, and it's cut from right next to the backbone, high on the hog as it were. And I start with baby back ribs because they're more tender and better marbled than spare ribs. And the first step on the baby back rib is actually to remove the membrane on the inside of the rib. And this membrane, the technical name is the pleura. What you want to do is use a sharp instrument and loosen the membrane, and then grab it with a paper towel. It's a little bit slippery, and pull the membrane off the ribs. It impedes the absorption of the spice and smoke flavors. So just remove this membrane and you'll wind up with something that looks like this. Now the next step in making a great rib is to prepare the rub. And we make all our rubs from scratch. This is what I call a 4-4 rub, or Reichlen's rub. It starts with equal parts salt, black pepper, paprika, and brown sugar. And that's really the only barbecue rub you need to know how to make. Now, to add a little more flavor, a little more complexity, onion powder, powdered mustard, and celery seed. And I recommend mixing the rub with your fingers. I think ribs are the single most iconic food in the pantheon of barbecue. I mean, for many people, ribs mean barbecue. The two of the most famous barbecue cities in America, Memphis and Kansas City, that's what their barbecue is all about. There are 2 ways to use a rub. Now, you can apply the rub as a seasoning, in which case it acts almost like a seasoned salt. Cook the ribs right away. But what I prefer to do is apply the rub and let the ribs marinate with these spices for 2 to 4 hours. And you can see when you do this, the rub actually cures the meat. And of course, when you marinate the ribs, do so in the refrigerator. So while the ribs are marinating, let me show you how to light the fire and set up the grill. You'll notice I'm using a charcoal grill for these ribs. Now, I'm a big propane enthusiast. I own lots of gas grills, but the truth is, if you want to imbue ribs with that authentic smoke flavor, you must cook on charcoal. Charcoal in question here is natural lump charcoal, and I'm using a device called a chimney starter to light the charcoal. The charcoal goes in the compartment at the top, crumpled newspaper at the bottom, and you simply light the newspaper and place the chimney on the bottom grate of the grill. So why do you use a chimney starter? Well, first of all, It eliminates the need for using petroleum-based lighter fluids, which some people feel impart an unpleasant taste to the food. The other reason is that this vertical shape funnels the heat upwards so that the coals light uniformly. Will take about 20 to 30 minutes, and you'll see that all the coals will be uniformly lit. So while the charcoal is lighting, let me show you how to soak the wood chips for smoking. Spice may give ribs their personality, but smoke is the soul of true barbecue. To generate smoke, use a hardwood chip. These are apple chips, and soak the chips in cold water to cover for about a half an hour. The idea here is when you put the chips on the fire, you want them to smolder, not burn. Okay, back to our ribs. So how do you cook a large number of ribs in a small grilling surface? Well, you use a device called a rib rack. And the rib rack enables you to cook the ribs in an upright vertical position, fat side or spine side up. That way, as the fat melts, it will baste the meat. Now let me show you how to set up the grill for indirect grilling. Now it's been about 20 minutes. You can see the coals in the chimney are uniformly lit. Each basket will hold half the coals, and this helps define your indirect grilling setup. The chimney will be hot, so be sure and wear heat-proof gloves. You may have wondered what this gizmo is for on the chimney starter. It's actually to help you pour the coals. So we'll pour a few coals in one side and a few coals on the other side. And when you put the chimney down, remember it's hot, so never put it down on a deck. Now the last step here is to place a drip pan in the center between the mounds of coals. Drip pan will catch the dripping fat from the ribs and also, again, help you define your indirect grilling space. Put on the grill grate. Place the ribs in the rack in the center. And this is called indirect grilling because the fire is on either side of the ribs, not directly below it. And add a handful of wood chips to each mound of coals. Finally, place the lid on the grill, and you want to position it in such a way that the vent holes are between the mounds of fire so the smoke is drawn evenly over the ribs. To increase the heat, simply open the vent holes, more oxygen, hotter fire. To reduce the heat, simply close the vent holes, cooler fire. I'm actually cooking these ribs about 350 degrees. It's a hotter temperature than traditional barbecue. The reason is this, baby back ribs are very well marbled, and that high heat will sizzle the fat and give you kind of a crisp consistency. You'll also get to eat your ribs a lot quicker. And we're not done yet. I have to show you how to make the mob sauce. The mob sauce is one of the best kept secrets of professional pit masters, and it differs from a barbecue sauce in that it is neither sweet nor thick. This one contains salted butter, apple cider, and a little of your favorite bourbon. Simply bring these ingredients to a boil, and the reason it's called a mob sauce is that you apply it to the ribs with this, a barbecue mop. Okay, now you never want to put a mop sauce on a raw rib, but these have been smoke roasting for about 45 minutes. And simply dip the mop in the mop sauce, mop it, and the mop sauce serves three purposes. First of all, it helps keep the meat moist. Second of all, it adds an extra layer of butter, bourbon, and apple cider flavor. And finally, it gives you something really cool looking to do while your ribs cook. Well, it's been about an hour and 15 minutes, and these ribs are smoke roasted to perfection. Now, how do you know they're done? Take a look. You can see the meat has shrunk back from the end of the bone by about 1/4 of an inch. It's almost like a pop-up thermometer in a turkey. And what's the one thing that's been conspicuously absent from this recipe? Barbecue sauce. Because I believe the ribs should be smoke roasted and tasty enough that they don't need barbecue sauce. If you want to apply the sauce, put it on at the end. What you can do is just sort of lift the rib out of the rack and place it directly over the fire and brush the sauce on right on at the end. It's almost like a lacquering process. This is a lemon brown sugar barbecue sauce, and you'll find the recipe on our website. So just brush the rib with sauce. So let's see how we did. Take one rib up here. I want to show you one way you recognize a perfect rib is that you can pull it apart with your fingers. And I want you to notice it does not fall off the bone, okay? Fall off the bone tender is a fallacy in the world of rib making. Ribs that fall off the bone have been boiled, and that is heresy in my barbecue religion. This rib is tender. If you look, come up close here. Do you see that little subcutaneous layer of pink right here? That's called the smoke ring, and that means you have nailed it. Let's take a taste. First timers ribs, because you'll remember the first time the rest of your life. One of my favorite dishes growing up was Chinese-style barbecued spare ribs. And every Sunday night, my dad would go pick up Chinese carryout, and we would always attack the ribs. The 5-spice short ribs are inspired by the original Chinese recipe. Here's a rib for people who don't eat pork. It's made with one of the most flavorful and fashionable ribs, the beef short rib, cut from the side of the steer. The ribs are flavored with Chinese 5-spice powder and served with a hoisin barbecue sauce. First, let me show you how to fire up the smoker. Now, 55-gallon steel drums are used throughout the world of barbecue. This is the only one I know that operates in the upright position. It has a wire ring at the bottom that allows you to arrange the charcoal in a ring around the periphery of the smoker. Here's a cool tool that will make you the envy of the neighborhood. It's an industrial strength blowtorch, and you use it for lighting the charcoal. Of course, you can also light the charcoal in a conventional chimney starter. First step is to score the meaty part of the ribs. And you do that simply by drawing the knife along the top in a crisscross pattern, as you see here. And what scoring does is it fosters the absorption of the spice flavor and also tenderizes the meat. And now the rub. The rub starts with Chinese 5-spice powder, which is a mixture of star anise, fennel, cloves, cinnamon, and white pepper. To this add salt, granulated sugar, and white pepper. I like to mix the rub with my fingers to break up any lumps in the spices. Now, sprinkle the rub on the top of each rib and rub it into the meat. And again, you can cook the ribs right away, but they'll have even more flavor if you let the ribs marinate with the rub in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. Okay, let's put them on the grill. So you can see the charcoal is lit, and it's the charcoal that provides the heat, but it's the wood chunks that provide the smoke flavor. These are chunks of cherry wood, and I've soaked them in water for about an hour so that they smolder and smoke rather than catch fire. Okay, and the last step Position the grate in the top of the smoker. Then simply arrange the short ribs on the grate over the drip pan. And when you arrange the ribs on the grate, place them in the center, away from the heat. You don't want to smoke directly over the fire. On goes the lid. And the way you control the heat is simply by putting one of these little metal caps in one of the 3 holes that are drilled in the bottom of the smoker. Remember the old principle, more oxygen, hotter fire, less oxygen, cooler fire. That's how you control the heat. We want to cook these ribs at about 250 degrees for about 2.5 hours. Like a traditional American barbecue sauce, this Shanghai sauce is sweet and salty, but there's no mistaking its Chinese origins. It starts with a condiment called hoisin sauce, which is made with soybean sugar and 5-spice powder. And hoisin sauce is available at any major supermarket. Next add, and here's what you can do, liquid ingredients. This is rice wine or sherry, and soy sauce, and rice vinegar. And you can put them in the bowl with the hoisin sauce. Next add sugar, and a little ketchup. And that triumvirate of Chinese seasonings, ginger, scallion, and garlic. And the sauce gets a quick sizzle on a burner. Just simmer it for about 10 minutes. When the ribs are almost done, and you can see here how beautiful they look. The meat has shrunk back from the bones. That's our test for doneness. So when you've got about 15 minutes to go, just baste each rib with some of this Shanghai barbecue sauce. Now the sauce has to go on at the end. If you put it on at the beginning, the sugar and the sauce will burn before the meat is cooked. And once these guys are sauced, then cover the smoker and cook the ribs for another 15 minutes. So here are the finished 5-spice ribs, and I'll just put a little more Shanghai barbecue sauce over each one. They smell absolutely outrageous. And to finish the ribs, just sprinkle with a little finely chopped scallion green. And let me see how we did here. Exquisite. The country-style rib is actually a funny-shaped pork chop, and it has the advantage of being the one rib that you can cook quickly using the direct method and get great results. Many ribs take a couple of hours to cook. Some take half a day. Well, what if I told you there was a rib you could cook from start to finish in 15 minutes when you come home from work on a busy weeknight? Well, there is, and it's called the country-style rib, and I'm going to show you how they prepare it down in Chile. But before I get to the rib, let's talk about the grill. Now, 70% of you most likely own gas grills, and just as a reminder, a couple of safety points when lighting a gas grill. First of all, always start with the grill lid open. Second, turn the burner on and then click the ignition. And third, very important, hold your hand over the grill for a few seconds to make sure the burner is actually lit. I'm going to close the lid here, preheat the grill to screaming hot. We're going to direct grill these country-style ribs. So first, the condiment. Down here in Tubac, Arizona, where we're taping the show, this would be called a salsa. Chileans call it pebre, and it begins with 1 finely chopped sweet onion. Then we'll add finely diced green bell pepper, chopped fresh cilantro, chopped fresh tomato, finely chopped jalapeno chili, and finely chopped garlic. Give the ingredients a toss to mix, and then add the flavorings: red wine vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, coarse salt, kosher C, and cracked black peppercorns. Simply mix these ingredients together. And that's all there is to making the pevre. So start by brushing each of the country-style ribs with extra virgin olive oil. Then we'll season with coarse salt. The reason I like coarse salt is that the crystals dissolve more slowly. So you get little salty bursts of flavor when you bite into the meat. And finally, cracked black peppercorns. Okay, let's get ready for grilling. So the grill is what I call screaming hot. How do we know? We use the Mississippi test. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, ouch, that is a hot grill. Remember, keep it clean using our monster grill brush, and keep it lubricated. Time to put on the chops. And we'll start laying the chops on the grill slightly on the diagonal so that we can create a crosshatch of grill marks. So here's how you grill these country-style ribs. It's about 2 minutes in one direction. Then we'll give each country-style rib a quarter turn to lay on that crosshatch of grill marks. So this is interesting. You always wonder, well, how do I know when it's time to turn my country-style rib? You can see little pearls of blood beating up on top of the chop, and that is a sure sign that it is time to turn the chop. So to test for doneness, there are 2 methods. I like the poke test. We want these guys to be medium, pretty firm with just a little yield to it. Of course, if you want to be scientific about it, you can use an instant read meat thermometer, but don't insert it this way through the country-style rib. Insert it through the end. Temperature you're looking for about 160 degrees. So once the country-style ribs are done, we'll just pull the ribs off. And there you have it. Ribs so quick, you'll miss them if you blink. So wherever you live, whatever you grill on, there's a rib to make you look like a pro. See you next time. Ribs are one of the most popular foods in the world, not just in North America. And as you travel Planet Barbecue, you'll find beef ribs in Argentina. You'll find lamb ribs in New Zealand and Australia. You'll find what I call dinosaur bones that are giant beef ribs down in Texas. Baby back ribs, true baby backs, which weigh less than a pound, come from Denmark. Ribs are truly eaten all over the world.